Okay. So are you recording that, Jason?
I did it. I figured
Great.
I'd mess around with it this time.
Okay, thank you, Brand. So Mike asked me, he's out of town. He's visiting Arizona. So he asked if we were to record this because he is working on trying to get our YouTube. Our YouTube is like locked up because of my own lack of understanding of how to set up a good proper channel. But he's working on fixing the whole YouTube thing and transferring all of our old videos over to that so they'll be available so we can continue adding to them. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just briefly touch on chanterelles that I have here. Just give me 1 second to get myself set up. So I have a very short presentation that I'm reusing from the last time we did this. I briefly updated it, but there wasn't a whole lot for me to update. This is just a brief overview on chanterelles and trumpets. By no means is this an extensive overview, or nor am I an expert on these things. If anything, I think I know less about chanterelles than I did a couple of years ago, the last time we did chanterelles, because of all the new information that's out there. So chanterelles do fall into this family, the Hydnaceae, with a bunch of other things. So like Cantharellus, Cantharellus, so the chanterelle and the black trumpets, and some of the other things like Hydnum, multiclavicola, those things, they're all kind of fairly closely related in the same family. But there's some other stuff in here too that's like really out there, like Peristereopsis. That's like very smooth looking, like Cisostrema. I think that's a crust. It might even be poroid, if I think. Anyway, it's a fairly good sized family with a lot of stuff in it. But the genus Cantharellus, right? So what we do know about it is it's mycorrhizal and terrestrial. The undersides are smooth, wrinkled, or covered with thick blunt edges, decurrent gills, sometimes called false gills, right? So sometimes people will call this area under here, gills, but if you really look at it closely, you realize it's not really like a separate type of material like on like an agaricus. It's actually feels much thicker and blunter and more like the actual context of the mushroom. So oftentimes they're called false gills. Usually they're orange or yellow. Some have fruity odors, often compared to apricots, and most of them, at least the ones I've come across, are considered good edibles. This one, Cantharellus velutinus. I do recall the last time we did this chanterelle taxonomy Tuesday, I did not have an ID on this. This is one that think I've learned since then because it's appeared in a couple of the Besset's books from down south. They put it in the mushrooms of Georgia and the mushrooms of the Carolinas. And I find this in one spot right outside of Philadelphia, like a 16 square foot area, consistently every year. And that's the only place I ever find it. And you do see velutinus pop up in other places in Pennsylvania and the areas. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Okay, so the most recent reports I have for the NJMA are from 2020, like consolidated, looks at everything we've ever collected and identified. As of 2020, NJMA had identified 9 species of Cantharellus. So here's just a few species of photographs I've taken. This first one, the smooth chanterelle, either laterideus or flavolaterideus. We used to indiscriminately just call them all laterideus, but we now know that there's 2 like really closely looking kind of cryptic ones. I think John Plischke told me that they did a bunch of DNA sequencing throughout Pennsylvania and found that flavolaterideus is the one that seems to be more dominant in Pennsylvania. Now that's just what he told me. How true that is, I mean, I generally trust what he's telling me. I tried comparing, like in the Bassett's relatively recent book, Mushrooms of Georgia, they have Lateridius in there. They say that Flavolateridius tends to be chunkier and it tends to develop a pink hymeneal surface when it's fully mature. I only just read that this winter, so I haven't really had a chance to like look at that because this is a summertime mushroom. We start finding these in my area, southeastern Pennsylvania, in like July.
Luke,
Yeah.
Rachel Swenie said that most of what chanterelles they find outside of the southeast are Flavolateridius, and Lateridius seems to be a southeast species primarily.
Yeah. Well, that will confirm what John told us too. So
yeah,
that makes sense. This one, I put CF Appalachiensis on it. I'm not so sure about that. CF means that's my best guess. I found that I think at the NEMF 2019, which was in upstate Pennsylvania. And then the same with the Cinnaberinus. I used to always call these Cinnaberinus, but now I think I've been hearing that there's like a lot of lookalikes of them, and I don't really know what to call this one anymore. So, again, like I said, I think I understand less about chanterelles in the past like couple of years than I thought I used to, right? But that just means that there's just more and more information coming out about it. Just haven't figured out how to use it all.
Luke,
Yes.
the names for these pink or the Cinnaberinus-like chanterelles are Coralloides and Texensis. And I don't think it would have Texensis here, but you never know. It crawls up along the coastal plain of the eastern seaboard. So most likely we're going to have Coralloides.
Okay. What was the other name you said? Carolensis?
Texensis. After Texas.
Oh yeah, Texas. Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. I knew there was some other. Is Cinnaberinus even a legitimate name for the area?
Oh yeah, allegedly, I think.
No. Okay.
I don't think they. I don't think they sequenced the type collection, but the paper that I'm looking at right now, which has all of the species we find in North America or maybe even the Americas, it has a sequence, but it doesn't say it's the holotype.
Okay.
Yeah, so John Plischke told me they're finding mostly Coralloides in the Midwest and in the Northeast. He said, I guess Steve Russell has sequenced a lot of them.
And as far as the Lateridius and Flavoteridius are concerned, they are sister taxa, and without the DNA, if I recall correctly from Rachel Swenie's presentation, it's just impossible to say, especially if you are down south. I think in our region, I think most likely, the chances are that we have Flavoteridius, as they've said, before. So I stopped calling these things Lateridius a couple of years back after I read the papers.
Okay.
And again, you've got to do the genetic work, and it would entail sequencing something other than ITS, unfortunately, which makes it more challenging, I think.
Yeah, Luke, your Appalachiensis looks a little bit yellow for Appalachiensis. That one's got kind of tan sort of colors in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This one has white stipes.
I think I have Appalachiensis to show later.
All right, good.
It could be something like Altipies.
Yeah, Altipies. Okay. I've always been confused on this one. And I don't think I've ever actually seen Appalachiensis proper than around here where I'm at.
Well,
I find it around here, but I find it.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I find it around here, but I find it in the kind of habitat you don't have in New Jersey, really. Sort of maple, birch, hemlock woods, maybe some white pines here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit like Stokes, but
I'll say I think that's kind of what like led me towards this thing because I was in that kind of habitat where I found this up in Lock Haven. Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Lock Haven should get Appalachiensis. Yeah, they should get it, I would think.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, CF. That was my best guess on this one, but I don't know what it is. So I did throw a few lookalikes in here because chanterelles are super commonly eaten, right? So this is one that always gets called as a lookalike, the Hygrophorapsis or Antiocha. So we do find this in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So you can see it has like the true gills on it, as opposed to those blunt ridges that we typically see on the chanterelles. Whenever I see this, it's always really kind of small and dainty, and kind of like thin fleshed. Chanterelles tend to be meaty, have like a little bit of like density to them. This thing has always felt really flimsy to me, but I can see how you could get it mixed up if you're not, being really.
I find some of these that are pretty robust, and sometimes the gills are very blunt and wrinkly and forked, lots of forks. So it's not difficult to confuse this with the chanterelle. One thing you can do is section it and see if the gills are, as you had explained before, comprised of a context separate from the rest of the cap. You can do that. So with true chanterelles, it's the same context. It's just sort of molded into the shape of blunt gills.
Okay. This is the big one, right? Jack-o'-lanterns, Omphalodus ludens, because this will definitely make you sick. I think that last one, like some people say, will make you sick, some not. But this one most definitely is a known mushroom to make you sick. So these, again, the same thing, right? If you section it, you'll see that these have a separate type of gill material. They also grow in these like clumps, right? These, what do you call that? Sepitose clumps around trees, like growing on the roots of these trees.
They also sometimes grow on lawns and in the woods, looking like they're coming from the ground, but they're coming from roots.
Yeah, like you can see,
and not
like
always in clusters, but usually.
Yeah.
And Charles McIlvaine thought it was a good edible.
But he does say in there all 12 other people in his party got sick, but he thought it was good.
Yep, he thought they were good and everybody else got sick. Great party.
Yeah, right. Okay, what else did I put in here? Gomphoid type mushrooms. So these things kind of have, somewhat similar looks to them. I think generally you're not supposed to be eating these things because of stomach upset.
They can really look like trumpet mushrooms sometimes. If you've never like seen or felt a trumpet.
Yeah.
I've seen these posted as like Cantharellales online.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's where we're going into. Yeah, genus Cantharellus, the trumpet. So I always put these with the chanterelles. They kind of seem to go side by side. I said they're in the same family. These things are mycorrhizal and terrestrial. Undersides are smooth and wrinkled, covered with thick, blunt edges. But they're hollow or funnel shaped, right? Many of them are black and gray, others are yellow and orange, fragrant, and most of them are good edibles. In my experience, the ones that I've found and eaten, right? So as of 2020, NJMA reported 10 species being found in New Jersey. Phalanx and Cantharellus ignicolor. I'm not going to go real deep into these because, to be honest with you, I'm not that confident and or comfortable with them. But I mean, they're easy to recognize when you see them. They're fairly easy to identify. They're well described in most guidebooks. They're well represented. So all your kind of broader mushroom guidebooks will have the more common Cantharellus species in there. And usually I'm finding these, I think, in hardwood. Where I'm finding them, both of them are in hardwoods, especially the Cantharellus phalanx, the black trumpet. I find them under beech trees, sometimes like by the droves. This is one, a lookalike, Polyozellis multiplex, which I think we do find occasionally in New Jersey. Okay, and just some quick references. So I'll copy this and drop it in here because there's some links in here. Oops. I'll do that after we get started. Mushroom Expert's got a pretty good older key, 2015, but he has a lot of species in there. Myco Quebec, right? That's a good, they have a lot of stuff on there. Rachel Sweeney's webinar, which I think was referenced on here. This is actually linked. So like I said, I'll put it in the chat, which Chanterelle is at. And then any papers by either her or Bart Buyck are decent, are worth seeking out. As far as I know, they're the two main people researching chanterelles, or maybe some other people, but those two are the ones that are doing a lot of sorting out of the mushrooms. This book, Field Guide Mushrooms of the Carolinas, they broach more chanterelle species than most guidebooks that I see. Kind of like some runner-ups with them, the mushrooms of the southeast and this one of the northeast, and Walt Sturgeon's, all of them kind of broach a few species in there and kind of discuss it a little bit more in depth than some of our older guidebooks that we like. I'll also say the Field Guide to the Mushrooms of Georgia by the Bissetts and Michael Hopping. They approach, a slightly larger group of chanterelles than most of our guidebooks are, mushrooms of West Virginia type stuff that we look at, or the mushrooms of the northeastern United States. They broach a little bit more in there. Right. So I think that is it. So I will stop sharing. Again, like I said, it was just a very brief overview to kind of introduce chanterelles to us. And I guess we'll open the floor up. Who wants to start sharing their chanterelles?
Thanks a lot, Luke. That was awesome, man.
Oh, you're welcome.
And real quick, that Appalachian mushroom book, by Surgeon.
Yeah.
Is that I've been wondering if I should pick that one up. How useful would you say that is in Jersey?
Well, in Jersey, well, I mean, the Appalachians run through northern Jersey.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you. I bought it a few years ago from him, and I liked it when I first opened it because it had some stuff, some somewhat out of the ordinary stuff there, but I don't really pick it up that much. I don't really use it that much, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But he does have some stuff in there. Like he has more Cortinarius in there than most other modern guidebooks, which I thought was interesting.
And has that held up to recent developments there?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know
if
it really or not. I mean, what does he have in here for chanterelles? I gotta look at that. I mean, one, two. I mean, in the index, he has 9 species listed in the Cantharellus genus. So,
oh yeah.
So there's a few things in there. A few things that are outside of the stuff that we normally see, like Lewisii, minor, Texensis, that sort of thing. So there's a few things in there. Cool. I don't know. This might be worth picking up eventually.
Yeah.
If you're in the mushroom, if you're in the book buying habit.
Yeah. And whenever I get to the Appalachians, it'll be, I spend
that for sure.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yo.
I have a the most recent paper on chanterelles from 2023 by Bart Buyck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to basically, it's a PDF file because it's a free access journal. I'm going to basically put it in the chat and people can look at it. It has all the species we have in North America, including Western North America. And people can take a look at that paper and see what species we have. And there are whole type sequenced, from the tree. It's very easy to see because they put like colors to where things are found. So anything in green is going to be found in the Americas. So here's the paper, and anybody is welcome to, take a look at it and become an expert in chanterelles.
Nice.
There's a very large group that is impossible to tell apart, like Flavus, Phasmatis, and Deceptivus. and those are like our Sibarius type chanterelles. But it's a very tight species cluster, and without sequencing, it's good luck.
Right.
And then there are weird things like Chicagoensis and Ayuvi tentati viridis from Mississippi. So these are the kind of more recent species that you'll see that come from specific regions in the USA, and the distribution is still not known. But that paper, I think, is fantastic because it basically shows the breadth and depth of chanterelles in North America.
Cool. Okay, that link that I just put in there, so there's a bunch of stuff. So Igor just put that in there. I put a couple links in that first one. Then the last link that I put in there, which is a YouTube video, that's the Rachel Swenie one that didn't link properly. My first message I put in there. Which chanterelle is that, by Rachel Swenie? All right, thanks for that paper, Igor. I just pulled it up myself. Okay, so is there anybody that wants to share from their screen to start with? Okay, well, I will go back into sharing my screen. And do have some stuff. So Dave has some chanterelles that we can look through. Are we seeing my email? Did that come through?
Yep, it's there.
Okay, good, great. All right, Dave, you want to tell us about what you got?
Oh, yeah. What I think are some rather large Cantharellus minor. These through my old chanterelle posts that I came across this, and I had not even proposed a Cantharellus with high confidence, but I'm pretty sure these are Cantharellus minor. They're just kind of big ones. They were found during a time, it was a summer, I think it was 2020 maybe. There was a period where there was a fair amount of rain. It was warm. There were a lot of mushrooms out. And I think these guys just got a little bigger than they usually get. But I think that's what they are, Cantharellus minor. I don't know if I've ever eaten Cantharellus minor, because usually they're so small that really, why bother? But if I find them this big again, I'll probably try them out just to say that I did. Right. Yeah, it was muted. Sorry. Yeah, it's the official small chanterelle. Okay, this one's interesting. I have not put a species name on this, but it's one of these, former Sibarius, Cantharellus Sibarius types. This one's kind of interesting, though. I don't think this is Cantharellus minor. They don't look like Cantharellus minor. They're not very big. You can see the penny there. There were a whole lot of them. They're growing in one little patch. And this is old growth trees down by the Susquehanna River, oaks, tulip poplar, maples, growing right on a trail. And I don't know the species on this one. I don't really have a decent species proposal. They're kind of small, but I don't think they're Cantharellus minor. I really don't think these are. So I think I probably ate some of these because, they're one of these former Sibarius types. I think, maybe they're Cantharellus minor, but I don't think so. The Hymenium's a little different on Cantharellus minor. So sometimes I look at spores. I don't think there's anything exciting here. These are probably 7 to 10 microns long. A lot of Cantharellus species have spores that are 7 to 10 microns long. I think there's one species that I've never found called Cantharellus. It's got the word spherospora or something like that. they have like almost round spores. That's a little unusual for the genus. I don't think I've ever found that one. So
what you're saying, it sounds like you're saying, is that spores are not really that helpful in identifying chanterelles.
well, I have another one coming up here where the spores were up over 12 microns long. And that's pretty big for Cantharellus. And I haven't found on Quebec or Mushroom Expert any Cantharellus species with spores that are reported to be over 12 microns long. There's a Annotation, I think. I think Quebec says Cantharellus annolensis. The spores go up to like 11.7 or something like that. But I'm going to look on Rachel Sweeney's website and also in the paper that Igor put. I just copied those in onto. They're copied. I'm going to look at those later. So I don't know what this one is though.
Dave,
it's one of those.
The one that we're looking at right here on this shot,
Mhm.
that one kind of looks like a little more like minor to me than the other ones. The other ones have really tight folds, gill-like.
Yes, very tight gill-like folds. Right. This one looks a little bit more like minor. This one right here, I agree. But I don't think these are minor. They were all growing together. They were clearly part of the same fruiting.
Yeah, cool.
Also, the stems are kind of thick for minor. The stems are kind of robust on these. Minor generally has thin, sort of flimsy stipes. So I'm not going to get. I probably will never get a species name on that. Like Igor said, these former Sabarias types, you probably have to have them sequenced to really know what they are. Well, let's see what's next. Oh, this is cool. So I think these are Appalachiensis, but they are not typical normal, whatever they are. These were found at the Helen Mickness foray, the Eastern Penn mushroomers down in South Central PA, Penn State, Mont Alto. I forget who found these, but these are an anomaly. There is a cap growing out of another cap on each one of these. So there's like a cap that's look at the cap. It's like 2/3 of the way up, right? And then there's a cap growing out of it. That is very weird. I think these are Appalachiensis. Appalachiensis has, like I said, these more sort of somber colors than the Sabarias types. I don't know. I don't think this ever got sequenced. It's pretty cool though, isn't it? Look at these things. There's like a mushroom growing outside out the top of the mushroom, and they're all like that. So that is very, very strange.
So just
Dave,
kind of a
you should have the specimen because I dried it for you.
Oh, I probably have it. I might have sent it to Steve Russell. I don't know. What year was this? No, I don't think I sent him anything from 2022.
This was 2022, and I mean, you showed these to me at the 4A, and I dried them for you because I have.
Okay, yes, I have them. Then I can look for them, and I've been trying to ask Steve about if he has time to do any sequencing and what kind of deal can he give our club, but he never gets back to me. So I'm just assuming he's just very busy.
Yeah, getting ITS from Chanterelles, you can forget about it. There's just too much trouble. He doesn't sequence ITS. This is one of the known exceptions. So if he still sequences, if he still does Sanger and he tests or RPB2 or something like that, then you can ask him. But considering how busy he is, he's probably not going to do anything about it.
No, he does. He hasn't responded to my emails about because I told him I'd send him a bunch of really cool stuff, and he hasn't responded. I'm assuming he's just very busy. He does these micro blitzes, and he gets probably a lot of material to work. These are pretty cool though. Look at this. That's not something you see every day.
Yeah, I was going
So
to say, so this is like, I mean, it's obviously some kind of mutation going on, but it's not like your typical, it's not like a rosette mutation that we normally see on a cap, right? It's a
I
little
don't think
different.
so.
Yeah.
It looks like a cap growing out of what tried to be a cap.
Yeah, but that cap, the first cap, the cap number one, is like inverted. The one that's like halfway down the stalk.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That may have been what started this. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand at first. Right. Yes. Yes, that may have been what like the impetus for this to grow like it did.
Hmm.
That makes sense, but who knows?
And yeah, you're right. It is really cool.
Yeah, that's bizarre. So I edited the photos and I put the edited ones in here also. So I edited some of them for brightness and exposure and maybe tint a little bit because these were indoor photos. So I tried to touch them up, but this is what these looked like, and this was more or less what the color was like. So this seems to be a fairly common species that I find on stream banks or near stream banks. Mossy areas usually. It's not a very big chanterelle. It's another one of these X Sibarius types because it's got the well-developed hymenium, the blunt pseudo gills. And I think this is the one that has, this is the one that has the big spores. Yeah, 9.5 to 12.5 by 5.5 to 7. And I looked it over, I double checked my old estimates and to the best of my ability, they seem to be correct. So, a whitish hymenium, the stem is fairly white. These are not very big. And I find a lot of these, and I've been collecting these to eat for many years. It's one of the more common species in my area. The most common species in my area on the west side of the Susquehanna River, though, primarily, is the smooth chanterelle, Cantharellus flavolateridius, is like Igor said. That's what I've been calling them for the last couple of years. So these are not the same as those other ones we saw that I said I didn't know the species because the spore dimensions are just too different. They really are a lot different. The difference between 7 to 10 and 9.5 to 12.5 is pretty significant. The upper range of the one spore dimension length just barely breaks into the lower range of the other one. So,
Hey, Dave, can I ask a question about so I see here you found this with hemlock and birch, like in hemlock birch woods. The other
yeah,
one
there's
that we
there's oak in this spot too, and I
sure.
think maybe I understated that a little bit, but yeah, it's the stream bank here has a lot of birch. There used to be ash. Most of the ash is gone now. Hemlock. Um, well, there's maple too, but maple sort of doesn't count. None of these macro fungi um, form mycorrhizal relationships with maple, and these are mycorrhizal. Cantharellus species are all mycorrhizal, is my understanding. Cap diameter is under 3 centimeters, so just a little more than an inch. They're not very big.
Oh, and this is the one that you mentioned on the email that is maybe I missed it, but this is found near streams, right?
Yes. Usually, yeah. Now it might be the same as some other things that are not found near streams, but one of the most common habitat that I find these is on like clear, cold streams, the banks, mossy in moss usually. on the banks, right near the stream a lot of times. So it's more than one spot that I know where this can be found, and it's in the same pretty much very similar habitat. But
Yeah,
those
and
are big spores, and I can
yeah.
probably find this if I do a little more research on using some of these other sources that were just shared tonight. I think maybe I can get an idea on this one because of the big spores.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one called Cantharellus altipes. Have you ever heard of that one?
Altipedes. Okay.
And that's got spores. There's one photograph of it in the Bissett's mushrooms of Georgia, and it looks pretty darn similar.
Uh-huh. Do they give spore dimensions?
Luke, you muted yourself mid-sentence.
Duh. Okay. The spore dimensions are 7 to 12 by 4.5 to 5.5.
7 to 12. Wow, that's a pretty big range.
That is a pretty big range, yeah.
Yeah, so what's funny is I just said that those two Cibarius types that I've shown so far I said clearly they're different species, but the spore dimensions both fit into that range. So they might be the same.
Yeah.
Those might be the same.
Hey, look, the overall color and shape looks like the altipes. I'm looking at the actual the hymeneal surface. Hey, I would look that up. That looks pretty. That one looks pretty similar.
I think I ran across altipes maybe in Micro Quebec. After I'm done here, I'm gonna go over and look and see if that's on Micro Quebec. I think it might be.
All right, cool.
Okay, and I think the next one might be Appalachiensis. Yeah, well, Appalachiensis it's more somber colored. It's like there's tan and brown kind of mixed in. And if you read the descriptions, that's typically what you'll see. See how the stem is kind of got a little brown on it. Sometimes these are actually more orange than other collections that I've made that I called Appalachiensis, where sometimes they're more brown than this. Now these were found this year, I believe, yeah, or last year. I mean, last summer in beech, birch, maple. If there's any ash left there, not many oaks. I don't think there's any oaks. Oh yes, that's right. There's oaks on this trail, but this was beyond where the oaks thin out and you stop seeing oaks. Right. So that's my concept of Appalachiensis, is kind of this off-colored chanterelle, and the false gills are fairly well developed.
Can I throw a couple things in here real quick since I finally
Sure.
found my notebook from Rachel Sweenie's presentation? I finally found my
Sure,
notes
go
on
for
that. But she mentioned that Appalachiensis or whatever it is. Yeah, you're right. Brownish stipe and cap. And then in that same subgenus, Parvo Cantharellus, I guess, is atopes. So the thing that Luke previously mentioned for the last one, and that is a birch associate.
I'm sorry, did you say atopes or altipes?
I wrote down atopes, but I'm sure I was just rushing through it, and it should be altopes.
Oh, maybe. There could be two different species names that are similar, but I'll check. I'll check atopes also. But to me, the color here is what points toward Appalachiensis. And I think the false gills are supposed to be fairly well developed on that species also, like you see here. So as usual, these are good edible. All of these Cantharellus are good edibles. I'm sure mine taste all right if you can find big enough ones in enough quantity. I guess I've got one more thing there if you want to show it. It's not a Cantharellus. This is a really cool species. Very pretty. Grows in moss, perhaps off of dead wood. This is a Cantharellus species. Cantharellus used to be Cantharellus. I don't know how far back you have to go, 50, 60 years maybe. Cantharellus was split off of Cantharellus. So that's why a lot of field guides will call Cantharellus tubiiformis the trumpet chanterelle. Sometimes they'll call it. But these are pretty cool. They're very nice color. They're very pretty mushrooms. I don't know if I ate any of these. I should have, just to be able to say that I did. But I think most of these Cantharellus are probably reasonably good edibles. These were not very big. So this was growing in a mossy area, a damp, mossy area. There was a lot of dead wood. And I think these were growing on really, really, really decayed wood, pretty much humus, peat moss practically, with a lot of moss on it. But Cantharellus tubiiformis, sometimes you can find that right on wood. But it's a mycorrhizal species, I'm pretty sure, with like hemlock and maybe pine. But the mycelium crawls up onto the decayed wood, or even on wood that's not all that decayed, and the mushrooms then fruit right off of the wood. So I've seen that with Cantharellus tubiiformis, and this one's a little bit more uncommon. I don't find this species very often. Eva Skiffick in Ontario has a lot of mushroom observation posts, mushroom observer posts of this species. I imagine it's kind of more of a northern species. It's a pretty cool looking mushroom though. Oh, look at these spores these are not as ellipsoid as your other Cantharellus species. Well, this is Cantharellus. These are like broadly ellipsoid to subglobose, I would say. Some of them look like they qualify as subglobose, meaning almost round. And I'm pretty sure the shape matched up pretty well with the expectation for this species. I think I remembered mine were like a little smaller than what they were supposed to be, or maybe they were on the lower part of the range of lengths. I put it in the notes. I forget what I put.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome.
Another good solid showing of chanterelles.
Yeah, I could have posted even more, but that's enough. Let's let some other people go.
All right. Does anybody else have any chanterelles they want to show?
I'm going to send over an email. I only have two, but you know.
I just sent an email to you with just one.
Okay.
That's not it. It's like just now. That's from before for
Okay.
like for today too, but
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at Hunter's, and then we'll try to look at Brandon's.
yeah, so this one Dave's inspired me to send it over because it is obviously weird growth forms. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Some sort of parasitization or something. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's like a bunch of tiny little mushroom forms growing on it. So I don't know what it is, but what's going on.
Is this what they call rosecomb? I don't really know what rosecomb is, but I know it's a mutation that I hear associated with chanterelles a lot.
That guy from Mushroom Wonderland, he finds them with that what he calls rosecomb every once in a while. That kind of looks like it.
I know I've
Rosecomb.
seen a different formation on caps, like caps only sometimes. Whereas that's sort of like a rosette. That's I heard someone mention something like that earlier, but this was like all up and down the Skype and so I don't know, but perhaps it is this rose comb. Yeah, I don't know.
Does this have pores?
No,
No, it looks like it has the chanterelle-like ridges.
it's a
And
terrible.
just to clarify, I said rosette earlier. I was looking for the word rosecomb.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I should look into that.
I always thought like rosecomb. I've never really like looked at. I've just seen people use the word, but it's usually when it gets all like frilly and like with these little teeny tiny caps like growing out of the big one.
Yeah, like the hymenium grows opposite, like on the top, pointing
Yeah.
upwards, essentially, which I think that's kind of what we're looking at here.
I think it has to be it, just kind of a neat, I just looked it up too, and yeah, kind of a neat representation of it, though. It was pretty far out to find.
Did you smell it?
I'm pretty sure, and it was pretty typical chanterelle from what I remember. It was not even, it was probably 3 years ago. It was in a area with a lot of equestrian traffic. But yeah, I mean, it was, I'm pretty sure I remember it having a just pretty typical apricot-y chanterelles, yummy smell.
They say that environmental factors are what causes the rose comb mutation, and I feel like I usually find them near roads.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it wasn't too far from the road as well, but not a real busy road, but could be also, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I think they mentioned like what is it, petrol runoff or something like that, as a possible being responsible for the rosecomb mutation.
That's lovely.
yeah, very interesting. And in general, I'm so interested in learning more about that aspect of mushrooms, picking up on all the chemicals and metals and how they're affected, but also we love to eat these mushrooms, and it's scary to think that they're sometimes really magnets for a lot of lucky stuff. So glad to hear anything anyone has to say on that. Thanks, Veronica.
Yeah, and that was Veronica that just mentioned that fact about the rosecomb mutation. Do you have any more information about the morchelloid mutation? Because I tried to look that up real quick and didn't find much.
Me too. I'd love to know more.
Yeah, let me find that and I'll send it in the chat.
Cool, thank you. That'd be awesome.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Hunter.
My pleasure.
Oh, here they come. Now the chanterelle observations are coming in. We just had to look at a few, get everyone excited. Okay.
I was always planning on sending some over. I got home like 3 minutes before the meeting started. Yeah, I think we've all kind of mentioned this. Like, I don't know these things very well, and when I see a chanterelle, I'm like, "Yep, that's a chanterelle. I'm not going to do any more work on it." So I don't have a lot of photographs of the chanterelles that I found over the years, just because it goes right in the basket, and I don't really pay attention to them. But Dave mentioned a species earlier, and I might have put what I think this might be in the notes. But this is one of those Sabaria type deals, I guess.
For sure,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think chanterelles actually are really, as beautiful as they are, they're really hard to photograph. And, and once they're picked, it's a little bit easier, but I think they're one of the hardest mushrooms to take decent pictures of in their natural setting. Unless they're giant, like on the West Coast or something. But
And this one's, I mean, as this is pretty big for what I find, pretty meaty, chunky.
yeah, that's a nice size chanterelle.
There's a mushroom. Liz Broderick used the name once, Cantharellus tenuothrix, and
Okay.
and I'm looking at a picture in the Bassett's book. This looks like the same shape, but the color is very different. She was pretty positive she had tenuothrix based on their one of the color things. They call it egg yellow to bright orange. So
Egg yellow fits here.
that's what I think when I looked at this. That's what made me think of it. Egg yellow. That's the Bassett's description. Egg yellow to bright orange. Now their photograph is pretty bright orange, but otherwise it has the same shape because different chanterelles have different shapes to them. This one's
Yeah,
very looks like
like
a meaty funnel.
and the margin varies as well, right? Like,
This one's
this
very
one's got a
wavy. Yeah,
wavy, very irregular margin.
but come into a pretty distinct point at the bottom.
With a short, the short little foot, right? The short little stem.
Yeah, so their stalk says 18 to 26 millimeters long, 7 to 10 millimeters thick, whitish to pale yellow.
Oh,
So
that looks pretty good.
hey, might want to look that up. They also mentioned the flesh is white and slowly staining rusty orange.
Aha. So just that name rang a bell, and I'm going back to my notes here from Rachel Sweeney's presentation, and I guess tenuothrix is a complex.
That's
That
correct.
contain
That's what I said before. We have like 4 species in there, like Flavus, Phasmatis, and Deceptivus.
deceptivus. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Okay.
But getting it down to even that complex is good for me.
That's another step closer, right?
Yeah, that's cool. Nice, thank you.
All right.
And then I figured I'd just throw in a black trumpet here, because I just kind of call them all phallics, but I know there are more names that can be applied. But I mean, this looks like a textbook phallics, I guess, right?
Yeah, you can tell from the spores. Phallix has yellowish orangey spores. The print is usually, pretty easy to determine the color. Take it on white and you'll see the orangey color. But there is a white spored Cantharellus that I find in the Poconos once in a while, usually in coniferous areas. And I don't know what that one is.
Interesting. Is that maybe the cornucopoides or something like that?
I'm guessing it probably isn't because these are mycorrhizal and cornucopoides that's like a California species, and the trees are all different out there. So my guess would be no, but I can't say that I have any actual evidence to back that up. But
Cool.
that's a white spore mushroom also, the Cornucopioides.
This is one of the first mushrooms that I ever like studied like the habitat for. And they, they always say they grow like on the stream banks and the hardwoods. They like to grow on the moss.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up in Hickory Run and I went to a habitat that was looking just like that, specifically looking for these, and I found them. It was one of the first times I ever found a mushroom based on like actually going to the habitat that
Nice.
I was like, honing in on it. It felt like quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, these ones, I found these a couple years ago. This is probably from either Maine or New York, probably somewhere north of here. But I had no idea what these were at the time. Like I pulled this picture out of my phone. I was going over some old photographs. I was like, oh, I didn't know what I was taking pictures of at the time, and I needed to go. I went back through those pictures, like, oh, I have some cool stuff in here. There's a trumpet.
All right. What else you got in here?
So, do we have any more chanterelles? Because this is not that thing is not a chanterelle.
Yeah, I think Emily sent something.
Cool.
Yeah, I just sent a couple in. Like same thing as Brandon. I don't have nearly as many photos as I should of chanterelles, but the ones that I do, I just sent in. I guess they're the ones that I probably took before I was really knowing what I was doing. I thought that was a good example of Cinnabarinus. Nice bright color.
So this one's interesting because kind of like the one that Luke showed on the presentation to begin us off here, it's got a little bit lighter of a hymenium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than the rest of it.
Hmm.
Which I don't know if that's common for Cinnabarina, but I was always under the impression that it's got kind of a con color thing going on with the cap and the hymenium.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like a peach color.
So pretty. I love those.
Yeah, so do I. Especially when you really like look deep into the hymenium, like it's so cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but another for anyone that doesn't know much about chanterelles and is looking for identification stuff, that cross veining is very common in chanterelles. Like the lines between the gill-like structures is pretty common for them.
All right. So what do you have here, Emily? Minor?
Yep, it's just the one photo. Just a cute little guy.
Yeah. Notice how the stem is kind of thin, and it's actually a little bit compressed. It's not really robust. That's typical for the species. Gills are kind of well separated. Well, false gills, kind of wide.
And then these I called them minor, but I wasn't really sure at the time. I just mostly called them that because they were small. Little at the end of their lifespan.
They certainly look like it.
Yeah, I'd call those minor. See, the gills are kind of well separated.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually what I see on those. And they're small, thin stalks.
Yep, just figured I'd throw a few in here just because it's what I had. So I should have more, but like Brandon said earlier, we tend to just not even bother taking pictures of them half the time. Just put them in your basket, take them home, cook them up.
Right. All right. Thanks, Emily. Has anybody ever seen the Entoloma parasiticum on a chanterelle? The little tiny antilomas that like parasitize chanterelles?
No, have you?
Yes, from a picture, we actually submitted a collection for sequencing, which failed.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure of it. I just recently went through a list and came across the observation by Nina in Mushroom Observer, and yeah, it was a first pass failure, and this is something that still has to come back and redo if possible.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it like in the flesh and blood, so to speak.
Neither have I. I only ever seen photographs of it.
I found the antiloma, but it was not on a chanterelle. It was on a Thalaphora.
Hmm.
It was one of the parasitic antilomas. There's probably more than one species.
Sure. Okay, Lila. What chanterelles do you have?
Maybe those first ones are minor. Pretty small, growing in moss. I can't even remember where I found them.
Now, isn't there a Hydnaceae that looks like minor? Hydnaceae, is it called Cantharellus?
Yes. It's like you
Oh, you're breaking up a lot there, Dave.
Cubiformis or
us. Now it's a name that starts with G. I
Dave, can you mute and then unmute yourself real quick? You're breaking up a lot.
ignicolor?
No, it's well, let's keep looking at this. I'll look the name. I was just kind of
Yeah,
since we're looking at minor, I was thinking of that one. But go ahead, Lila.
yeah, I really don't know what these are. That's why I said question mark when I sent them. But they were small. They had the cross veining. I didn't take very good pictures of them, sadly. The next picture might be better than that one a little bit.
Pretty.
Some forking going on there.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the undersides of chanterelles. They're really pretty spectacular. All right. So you have some of these Cybarius types.
These are pretty big. Oak, pine, woods. Nice mess of them. I spared you the pictures of some cooking.
Yeah, that's a pretty handsome mushroom.
Yeah.
So that one photo there, you can see where those false gills or ridges or folds, whatever, can kind of, you rub them off of the stem there. They just kind of come up right off.
What kind of trees did you find these by, Lila? Do you
These-
remember?
Oak, yeah, all under oak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of white oak and red oak in a limestone area. A lot of limestone underneath.
I put it. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of limestone. This is underneath the shallow soil in this area.
Oh, I see Dave. So Dave linked the one that I was thinking of, the hygroscopy that looks like a minor Glorioxanthromyces nitidis. There actually is a hygroscopy Cantharellus though that looks kind of a chanterelle-like look-alike. And we actually find that down in the pine barrens.
Yeah, common on mosses, that one.
That's a real pretty mushroom. I've got a couple of pics of that. I love that, seeing that.
Yeah, it is a cool mushroom, Hunter.
Oh, cool. Very nice, Lila.
Thanks.
I presume they tasted good.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
So nice when they're fresh. Mm.
Okay, any more chanterelles that we want to look at?
Luke, what's your favorite way to cook fresh chanterelles?
One of my go-to things is I always saute them up with fresh corn and like zucchini and basil. I really like them like that. It's kind of like real fresh with all the other summery stuff. I don't like to put like garlic and stuff in them. I don't mind it with garlic and stuff, but I like to put like basil, some of those types of herbs. Like sometimes make a little tiny bit of mint in with them.
No garlic. I don't use garlic with chanterelles either. It negates a lot of their flavor.
Yeah.
It overrides. Onions, though, they're good with onions. And you know what? I like to put them in bechamel sauce because the flavor really spreads through the sauce, and the sauce actually turns a little bit orangey, so it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds real good.
It is, yeah. And I put it on either chicken or fish, like, sort of nice flaky white fish.
Nice. That sounds great.
Yeah, like a white fish. That sounds perfect for a chanterelle, like that real delicate, almost like fruity aroma.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think mushrooms and fish do not go together, but chanterelle might be the perfect mushroom there, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I make this a sauce with king boletes that I use on salmon. It's really, really good. And you poach the salmon in like shrimp stock or whatever, and rehydrate the mushrooms in the stock. Also, and you make a sauce. It's really good. There's a few, chanterelles pair pretty well with trout also. And you know what? One of my favorite things with chanterelles really is put them on just a regular red and white Neapolitan pizza with onions. Great combination of toppings.
Nice. Sometimes I take them to preserve them, right? Not a ton of them, but I'll take them up and chop them up real fine and cook them real slow in clarified butter and a little bit of salt and make like a confit.
Yeah.
Like a confit out of it. And then you let it cool and they all settle down to the bottom of the butter, and then you just refrigerate the whole thing. And then over, in the winter, you kind of peel the butter back and you scoop those chanterelles out and use them in cooking. But then you also have a chanterelle butter.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Because whenever I find chanterelles, I use the big good ones in some kind of dish, but then I'm always left with a bunch of scraps of chanterelles that, and I mince them up, and I love making a butter out of them with shallots, and I do use garlic in it with some, herbs, and just make a compound butter, pop it in the freezer, and just use a slab of it on toast in the morning throughout the winter.
Man, you guys are just killing me. Like I'm ready
really
to eat my phone.
Chicken stuffing too.
And what would you say, Dave? What kind of stuffing?
Chicken stuffing. I mix them with bluets. I put bluets and chanterelles together in chicken stuffing. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
They also pickle really well.
Yeah, pickle. Ursula, in our club, she makes a chanterelle soup, and she used to bring it to forays sometimes. I remember my kids eating it when they were really little. And they always remember that. They still remember that the lady that has the chanterelle soup in the club. All right, so shall we move into some other stuff? Since I have Dave up about this, because you had one other one in here, right, Dave? Oops, not that.
No, I think we saw all mine.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I meant Brandon.
It's Brandon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this will be pretty quick because I just wanted to. Dave last week showed a Jack Rogersella. What was it, multiforma that you shared last week, Dave?
That's what I identified it as. Yeah, I was actually fairly confident about that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Jack Rogersellas, and I made the comment that these things are kind of easy to work out once you get like the host and this, that, and the other. And then I found an annula hypoxylon, and I was like, oh wait, they're harder to figure out than the Jack Rogersellas. Um, so this has that kind of sunken ostellar disc. You can kind of see the you got the beak surrounded by a circle, where the parathecia, I guess, is the way you refer to that as. But this thing
there's
is
like
on.
a little crater
Yeah,
on the one there
yeah,
on
like
the left.
a little crater. But this thing also has a subiculum. So, like, if you zoom out here or go back to the macro shot, because that's under a loop, you can see there's a whole black mass underneath all these fruiting bodies, which I thought was a little unique. And then just the overall,
as opposed to just rupturing out from underneath of a piece of bark.
right, exactly. And then the overall shape, kind of like hemispheric, more or less, like kind of spherical, but small. So not hundreds of these individual fruiting bodies coming together into one mass, but 10, 8, maybe up to 20 in some of these masses. So that kind of rules out, I think it's Therizina something. But yeah, that's the name that I put on this. Looks pretty good, but there's just not a lot of information that I can separate annulohypoxylon annulatum from annulohypoxylon truncatum, I believe it is. They're the two species that I'm having trouble kind of distinguishing between. And this is the host here, which looks like a young oak to me. Maybe my tree people can weigh in there.
That looks kind of like beech to me. The bark looks kind of smooth.
Looks like a branch though, like maybe something that fell from up high.
Yeah, I kind of my first thought was beech as well, but
That
I don't know,
definitely
those young
possible. There was beech in the area,
Okay. Well, it's not like we have any other takers on the wood.
Yeah, but I just wanted to show, so like the way that you can get to the species on this thing. That's why I included this. Turkey tail was growing on it, so whatever that means. I don't know if turkey tail loves beech all that much. But yeah, the way that you tell the difference between the thing that Dave showed last week and annulohypoxylon. So to get it to genus, which that if you can get it to genus, that's pretty cool too. Is the presence of that, what they call it, the ostellar disc, that kind of dug out circle around the yeah, there.
Out there.
Yep.
Cool.
And that's where the name annulohypoxylon comes from, because there's an annular area around the little projection.
Cool. That's a good way to remember it. Yeah, I guess you could refer to that as an annulus, huh?
Yeah, well, it's kind of an annular area. It's just shaped like a ring, sort of, so shaped like a circle. So if you just consider the little projection in the middle to be a distinct thing, then it's like this wide ring, surrounding that thing.
Right.
Like a moat.
Yeah.
But again, I have not found a good description of kind of comparing annulatum to truncatum. Just kind of going off of what people are calling it online, and it looks like truncatum has a bit more of like a if you consider each one of these ringed kind of circles, like that individual one on the right, that individual one on the upper right there, they can form these masses that kind of take on a hemispherical shape with annulatum, but truncatum has more of like they're more aligned in rows or larger patches, I guess is the best way to put that aren't as spherically coordinated. They're more laterally coordinated. But that, again, that's just me looking at observations. I haven't seen that in a description.
Do you know where the name truncatum comes from? I mean, something is probably truncate. I'm wondering
Yeah,
if it might be
so
the spores.
it might be the spores, but it looks like, from what I'm seeing, a lot of the things that are being called truncatum have this. So that disc that we're talking about is less sunken, and it almost is convex going the other way, so like truncated upward with still the little nipple coming out in the center there, but a clear disc, but a different shape, maybe more, if you can consider that disc truncate, maybe that's where the name comes from, but that disc does look different on some of those observations.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, because if the disc was elevated a little more and just like even with the high point on the sort of spherical hemispherical thing, then it would kind of look like a hemisphere that was chopped off, and which means that it would be truncated.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, but again, I'm not too secure in my identification of annulatum here, but this could be truncatum, and I have no idea why. I do have the thing. I'm going to look at spores. Well, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
It's
Thanks,
really
Brandon.
cool looking.
Well, if you want to look at another big black blob, I sent one in as well.
Nice. I love a good black blob.
And I was even hesitant to get as far as genius with this thing, which I can barely pronounce. Biscugneoxia.
Hmm.
All of the problem with this thing was everything I could find that was similar to this. It has little tiny bumps on it, little tiny bumps, and everything
Yeah.
I find is typically white. And there are only a couple observations of this thing as black, even though I'd read that it turns black at like the end of its life. It's still, I haven't seen very many observations that really look like mine. So yeah, I don't know. And after Dave's talk last week, I was a little afraid to bring it home because I don't want to introduce it to any trees around here.
Is that on a standing tree?
Yeah, it's a standing tree, but it's completely dead.
My first thought would be some like diatribe, but I mean, I don't know these things all that well.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind too. Did you compare to that, Emily?
I'm sure that I did. I did this research a week ago, so at this point I haven't refreshed my memory and why I got to this point. I feel like I did, and there was a reason I went against that. Hang on.
Oh wow. coming right through, coming through a lichen, white lichen, right?
Yeah, it was kind of cool how it's like poking it off of the outer layer of the bark and lichen, kind of poking through everything, pushing it out of the way. It's really smooth, but it does have those little bumps. You can't really feel them to the touch.
Did you dig beneath it? There was something about some of these being reddish underneath.
I didn't.
Diaphragm.
I could go back. I know where it is.
My other thought, and I don't know Bisco. What is it? Bisco. It's the one with the X, right?
Mm-hmm.
Biscoganoxia acropuncta.
Yeah, I mean, is that in Xylaria? Are these, is diatribe in Xylaria as well? Or Xylariales, like that order? Are they related?
Yeah, in that family.
I think the only reason I stuck away from diatribe was just there wasn't anything that was as smooth as what I'd found, and it was all kind of sticking out, and mine was like right on the surface. Like it looks identical to what I'm calling it. It's just black instead of white.
Right. Did you do any micro?
No, like I said, I was afraid to bring it home.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, if you had, you might have been introduced to your first very difficult to deal with under the microscope, very hard black thing, cracking some cover slips.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Cool. Thank you, Emily.
Yep.
Okay, we had a few others from stuff that people mailed in. Okay, so Hunter. We got a couple observations here.
Yeah, so this is just scarlet cup that I found this week, and I'm really just practicing making posts so I can share them with you guys. I don't normally go on Mushroom Observer very often, and also including some microscopies. So this is mostly just practice stuff for me that I'm sharing, but hopefully I'm starting to get up to speed. And I'm thinking, I guess these are often sheathed, and I believe those are the spores. There's another shot that's pretty good of the micro too, or better.
Yeah. There you go.
Mm.
Those are the asci.
Yeah, I was looking at this earlier, Hunter. You got spores. You got them inside the ascus, SI. That's a good shot.
I'm getting there.
I was just gonna say, you can kind of see that there's going to be some, I don't know, what do you call that? Some texture to the spores. Not
Yeah,
texture, but like two distinct
gutules.
gutules. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw this too. And if you look at the end of the asci, yeah, I think that one right there. I think you can see the what do you call that? The little lid that opens. The little lid that opens.
Yeah, picturally. Picturally.
Yeah, apiculus. Apiculum, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah, but yes, apiculate.
I think it starts with OPER. Oper something.
Perculate.
Yeah, the little hinge door that opens and closes on the end of the aside
Right.
to let the
right.
spores out.
Yeah, that's almost certainly what that is, because what that is on the right there, because these, what's the genus on these things? The
Sarcocypha.
Yeah, I think that's in Pisiza family, Pisizaales maybe, and I think all Pisizaales have that.
Did these have little stems on them, like attaching to the substrate, or were they just really cups?
I'm gonna grab. I have it in the refrigerator. Just let me just take a quick look.
Because there's one these are Sarcoscypha, right? I think that's the right genus, right? So there's one that
really.
has a little stem.
Not much of a stem, no, not really.
Okay, then you can probably eliminate Occidentalis, I think is the one that has a stem. And then that leaves, I think there are two other ones, Dudleyi and let me look.
Austria. Which did I even say this was? I'm forgetting now. I don't know. But isn't the Occidentalis one really tiny?
It's very small. Yeah, the caps are usually only about a centimeter, if that.
Yeah.
They're elongated, and the fruit body underneath tapers to like a stem-like projection that attaches to the substrate. Usually little sticks, like it looks like these guys are probably attached to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty
Mhm.
good size though, branch and fruiting bodies.
Okay, so these are Sarcoscypha, right? That's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's just I'm just trying to get in the hang of having all the information, providing all the information at the right place. It's like just doing the microscopy right now is so exciting and overwhelming for me. But then I kind of blow certain parts of just getting all the information that I should and providing it. So I'm just trying to get up to speed. But so this is a dry specimen from the summer that I had and decided to try some microscopy on. And it's a little bit controversial because the everything in the North Woods of Wisconsin where I found this, they're calling chrysoblema or the sawai now. And but this really looks like the flavovata or Muscaria
There you go.
variation.
Flavo,
Yeah,
Flavivulvata.
flavovata.
Yeah, Flavivulvata. That's a
Right.
Western species, though, isn't it? Isn't that like
Yeah.
a West Coast species?
Right. It's
Or
not
Rockinons?
right. Close sites, it's not in the Midwest. But still and then this Gasawai, I mean, it generally is yellow variations that we're seeing in the Midwest of Muscaria. We don't really get a lot of red at all. And then so I'm I'm not really sure, but it's been interesting. The name that's sticking is the West Coast name right now. So and then it was interesting because it really looks like the Midwest is very underrepresented in the Amanita identification. Like on Rod Salusa's website, there's regions, but the Midwest is completely ignored. There's not one for it. That was a universal veil remnant, but back there, which I just thought it was fun to just look at like one little remnant under the microscope, and I thought it was interesting how it had those striations or stripes going across it. Does anyone know what that is, or?
What magnification are you at here? Is this maybe 100?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not using the immersion oil still, so but I'm using the 3 ocular lenses below that.
Yeah. Which one is it? First, second, or third?
I think it's probably the second or third. Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying. Like
100 or 400.
to have all the information, available, I'm just not up to speed yet. But so I apologize and thank you all for bearing with me, because this is very exciting for me to be moving forward at all in microscopy. So and it's just great to get any feedback. So
Yeah, of course, that's how you learn, right?
yes, I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Now,
And to
what's
to
been?
kind
Oh, go ahead.
of to go back to the veil remnant photograph, those striations, I don't know what they are, but I mean, you're on the right track. Like you see something unique, take a picture of it, right? I don't know exactly what that is, but it is interesting, right?
It is, yeah. And then the last one, I'm thinking that the last photo, are those spores, those the kind of curved, would those be spores kind of centrally located in that picture on the edge? It's a little bit harder to zoom and stuff with the mushroom observer, isn't it? As opposed to INAT or oh, that, yeah. So are we looking at the spores there? The sphere, the like elongated, or what it would be those elliptical or elliptical?
I think so. I think
Okay,
those are spores.
yeah,
I think the muscaroid amanitas mainly have broadly ellipsate spores, but I can look that up. That's what these look like. Oh, and by the way, Gassoii can sometimes be rather scarlet. It's usually yellow or yellowish orange, as you said, but sometimes it can have a scarlet cap. I'm wondering, and I think this is probably wrong. If Igor's still there, he can probably help. I think this mushroom is a little bit too vividly scarlet to be persicina.
and I don't think we are supposed to have that at all, in the
Okay.
Midwest, but
Okay.
but you just you never know. I mean, what's gonna, right? I mean, that's the fun part.
And by the way, as far as amanitas in the Midwest go, Jay Justice and Britt Bunyard have it's almost like a coffee table book. It's got beautiful pictures in it. And it's
Yeah, I
got a fair
have
number
it.
of species. You've got it? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
Amanita
do.
book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are Midwestern guys. So a lot of their photos are probably from the Midwest, and a lot of the information is probably based on Midwest collections.
I should give it a good look. I haven't actually since I did this post. But just because it's already outdated. I mean, in some ways.
I think most of the species they have in there are, some of the concepts have probably been split up by DNA. But by and large, it's, as a field guide type information, it's pretty good, I'd say, that Amanita book. And a lot of the species they have in there are pretty, ones that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think there's a new name, you can always just go on Index Fungorum and search the name, the old name, and you'll find the new name.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a good look at that.
All right, I think you have one more, Hunter.
Yeah, this was from this week as well. I found some Ernula criterium, which was exciting. And I tried to do some microscopy on that as well and just have some spores that are really tiny. And then I am wondering if the word to describe those would be fusiform. I don't, yeah, or not.
Yeah, it looks like elongated to fusiform or subfusiform because of the one end is kind of pointed. So fusiform means shaped like a spindle. So the spindle is kind of pointed, I guess, on top. I don't really know. I don't know much about spindles, but I think that's the idea.
Okay.
Wow, so you're getting Ernula already.
I know that
Yep.
that is crazy. Yeah, I mean
It's crazy.
it is
Yep.
crazy. It is just bizarre. Yes,
Yeah, they're like a month early.
for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, shocking.
Cool. Well, thank you, Hunter.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me share.
You're welcome.
Yeah, keep at it with the microscope.
I will, I promise.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to share tonight? We have some stuff from Marisol that she sent in.
Yeah, let's look at Marisol stuff.
Okay. So she says, hello to all. This is my first year experiencing fungi in Portugal. I'm still finding some of them in the abandoned convent in the mossy woods that I visit often pedaling my bike. Spring is already here, plenty of wildflowers appearing around us. So, Sarcosypha coccinea. Because there are only 4 species in Europe. There are 4 species. She's only found this one so far.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's that obvious stem that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think that's what we would call occidentalis here in North America. I'm going to check right now.
Wow, that's really that's a stipe that thing has. Standing upright in the woodlands.
Is it really standing upright or is that all buried, I wonder? Looks like
Good question.
a lot of it was buried.
A lot of it was probably buried, and also just under there's probably a good couple inches of leaf litter there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're usually partially buried in the substrate. That's what we would call occidentalis here. So I guess there's a European counterpart, this other species.
So this is what she's calling the excipulum hairs. So is that the hairs on the outer surface? Are they usually kind of velvety on the outside?
Excipulum. Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe around the margin there.
Yeah, the fringe. I can't really make out where the hairs are on there, but
I know with the larger specimens, they were talking about, or species using the hair on the outside to help get the ID, where some of it was like white and more twisted and others weren't.
Okay, so these are spores inside the asci.
Pretty massive spores.
Yeah. She had dimensions on them. They're big. Like roughly 10 by 30 to 50 wide.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right, more of the hairs. Are these clamps on here? Is that what we're looking at?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
It's tough to say if they're clamps or not, or because it doesn't look like there's any septa, right?
Oh, I see septa right there.
Yeah.
But you're saying right there, there's septa
Right.
on the one that's shown through there. I don't know.
Yeah, me either. Because if you look at the one on the right, that could be a clamp. Like there could be a septa there, or it could be the hair behind it.
Yeah. All right. Okay, then she has Crepidotus probophyllus. So she said, I read that it is the most common in the USA. I was only going to show the spores and accidentally few brown hyphae from the cap scales were found in the spore prints, so I decided to examine the scale's edge. What a beauty. So this is Crepidita probophyllus.
Yep, that's the color.
Did you see the Facebook post that was going around about Mars rover discovers a fungi, but it's only Crepidotus?
No.
I was just thinking of that when you said, I was thinking of that when I opened this up because I did see that. And then Stephen Russell chimed in and got like, not salty, but he was like, hey, come on. He's like, I just sequenced like tons of Crepidotus. So apparently he's going to put out a bunch of Crepidotus information soon.
Can you go back to that last clamp photo? Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess the clamp is like on the backside, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. And that's some funky looking cystidia.
Yeah.
Look at the one in the at the 6 o'clock. That's wild.
Yeah. There's some really, really uniform looking spores.
Yeah, quite a number of crep species have globospores. It's pretty common in the genus. Although spore morphology is pretty diverse in the genus also. There's ones with longer spores and ones with ornamented spores and smooth spores. It's a really hard genus actually.
Nice shot of the basidia. Okay, there we go.
There's that. Yeah, there's that clamp.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see on the other one also. Both of them, you can see the clamps.
And I think it's always cool when the hyphae on that last shot, they fold over on themselves and really makes it like look like a ribbon
Yeah.
in the upper right there.
Yep. All right. That was pretty cool. Then she has a Deconica species. She says, I think this is the first time I scope one of these. I didn't know where to place it.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I heard conica. Did she say this was Deconica?
Deconica, yeah.
Yeah, it's red color spore print, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The spores on these are usually kind of interesting. They different shapes depending upon how they're positioned.
Man, that thing looks like one of those swamp gallerinas.
Yeah. My first thought was these really look like Gallerina, but the spore print is dark, and that makes me wonder about one of my mushrooms. Yeah, I've scoped some Deconica that grow in my yard every spring, and I get the same kind of things, that the cystidia that are long and thin and with long necks, and the spores that sometimes they're subrhomboid, meaning they sort of look like they have two pairs of parallel sides.
And then that encrusted hyphae,
Yeah.
that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Then we have Macrocystidia cucumis variation latifolia. Second time finding my backyard, very small. The cucumber smell was detected this time.
Marisol's getting into LBMs. That's
Yeah, I was saying, I was like, what the hell is a Macrocystidia?
yeah,
well,
never heard of that.
I think that we get the same species here, but a different variety. It's not so uniformly light brown. I think. What do they look kind of like gymnopus? I'll find a link and I'll put it in the chat.
Whoa. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like a lesser Pluteus.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Colocystidia.
Yeah, I put in a link to Michael Quebec for Macrocystidia cucumis. So what we get is, it looks like gymnopus or earlier or gymnopus the alkaline gymnopus. I forget, alkalinensis or something.
Whoa.
Huh.
Yeah, there's one of those little fingers coming right off the side there. Yeah.
Okay, our last one, Havella solitaria.
Cool.
Yeah, I always like these Havellas. I don't find them very often, but they're pretty striking, I think.
Me too.
Did she put any dimensions on these? What were the size of these? I wonder.
Specimen was 3.6 centimeters wide on its
Mhm.
cup, 2.7 on the stipe. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I see that looks like Skeletocystidia.
So big, well, not
Skeletocystidia are like thick walled cystidia that project out of polypore context. Let's see what she's talking about. Every time I do find these things, they're like really always like half buried in or totally buried in leaf litter. So there's
And
like
you find this species, Luke?
no, I don't think so. I don't know what species I find. I've named a few species, but I don't remember what their names are. I don't. This isn't sounding familiar to me. I just
I
mean
only ever
Havella in general. When I find them, they're like buried in leaf litter.
I
It's
only
like
find the tiny Halvellas, the really small ones. Those are the only ones I've ever.
I find some in my yard that are pretty big, like size like this.
Yeah.
You'll like be standing there, and all of a sudden they just come into focus, and you're like you realize you're like pretty much standing on them,
Wow.
probably like crushing them. Yeah, most days. Yeah, this is. I see what she's saying. It's like see how you can see it looks like there's a kind of like a thick wall to it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It's almost that the wall is so thick that you can't make out a thin wall, right?
It's yeah, like that stuff that you see in there. That's the hollow part of it. The rest of that's all thickness of the walls.
Cool. And wavy, like she said.
Yeah,
Also kind of interesting.
that's a nice
Man, what a
shot there.
shot. What a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Escapulum cells. I don't even know what they are.
Neither do I, but that's the same descriptor that she put on the hairs from the Sarcocypha.
Oh,
Ex-
that must be fuzz on the outside, I bet. On the outside, like this part here,
yeah, I would think so.
like out there.
Which would make sense. Like the outer piculum, it's not the subbiculum. It's not the under piculum. It's the outer
Yeah,
piculum.
yeah. Matter rearranging itself to form the spores. It's like a transporter.
Yeah. Energize.
Right. Nice. All right. Thanks, Marisol. That was great.
But that shot does kind of it goes back to something that I was thinking with those immature spores when she was showing those. Some of them just looked like spherical, and then they were like adding mass over as they were maturing. So I guess that's what's going on there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that was everyone. I think everyone had a chance to share, right?
Yep.
Sounds that way. Awesome. Did anybody see that paper that just came out on the Fomitopsis, all the lumping they did with the Fomitopsis?
No.
No.
I just read it a couple days ago. It was really, they did a big study with like Rivardin and Joseph Vlasic and Bernetia. I think that's how you say her name. A lot of like a big polypore people. And they just did a massive lumping of Fomitopsis. And like put all this stuff back into the genus. So like they're trying to get rid of like Niveopore fomes.
Yeah.
Bunch of other ones. It was pretty exciting, and they described a bunch of new species.
So all those things that were originally described like in fomes that were then broken off into all these different genera are being lumped into Fomitopsis. Is that what's
Well,
going on?
I think they were probably originally in Fomitopsis, and they've been
Okay.
getting split over and over and over again, like ridiculously split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because anytime I'm looking up something like Fomitopsis, there's Fulvo, Fomitopsis, and Neo, and all these variations on Fomitopsis.
So many anymore. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And is that paper available to the public?
Yeah. Yeah. I can find it and put it up if you want. If you feel like hanging out for a second.
Sure.
I gotta go on.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it real quick, but yeah, if you could put it in there.
Oh, could I share my screen for a minute? I just want to try this and see if it works for next week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, desktop. I don't know what I do next. Keynote. Yeah,
So do you see the green share screen icon?
I hit that and then this screen came up. Keynote unknown. So I don't know what to do next.
And that's an option on different there may be 2 or 3 windows to choose from on that screen.
Allow zoom. Oh, okay. I guess allow zoom. Nope. Nope, that's not working. Okay, well, let's see. That's my screen. But if I click share screen, it doesn't. I'll try desktop.
Sometimes you have to share it a second time once you select your window. Say share again.
Share. Oh, open system preferences. Well, just I'll try that. It's privacy.
I just dropped that link in the chat. 20 genera put back into Fomitopsis.
Yay. That's good.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, I just doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what to do next because I was going to make a PowerPoint for next week, but I don't
Well,
know.
if you want to schedule something with me, Virginia, and we can practice during the week. If you want to
Okay.
share from your screen, we can do that.
Okay.
Or if you do end up making a little presentation and send it over to the host, we can always share it for you.
Oh, okay. So in other words, do the PowerPoint and then send it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do that too.
Oh.
Or if you want to, take a little bit of time this week to meet, we'll do a private Zoom with just you and I, and we can practice.
Well, I think maybe if I'll try sending it. That sounds like an easier way to do it.
Yeah, sure. That's no problem.
Okay, I'll try. I'm not used to doing this. Okay.
Well, cool. I'm glad that you were thinking about putting a PowerPoint together. I didn't want to ask you to do that. That's awesome.
Well, that's not hard to do. I don't think. I just have to get the photos and put them on there.
Cool.
Okay.
So for everyone wondering what we're talking about, next week we're going to be doing mixomycetes. So we're going to be doing a slime mold night. And I made sure that Virginia was going to be able to join us because we can't do a mixomycete night without Virginia because she's the only one that knows these things.
Awesome.
Be great.
Okay, so to whom should I send it, or just to the email that's on the link that's usually sent out?
Yeah, you can just send it to the Taxonomy Tuesday
Okay.
account.
Right.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. So everyone's all set?
Yeah, and thanks for that link, Luke.
Oh,
Looking
you're
forward to
welcome.
getting into that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
So much,
everyone
everyone.
have a great week. Thanks everybody for sharing. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for hosting, Luke. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Luke.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.